Okay, hello everybody and welcome to Voices from the Field. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Amy Donahue and I am Pivot's Senior Engagement Officer. I will note that you are also seeing a still shot of me over there. Don't be confused. I will be administrating this call from the back end once we get started. First, I want to name a couple of housekeeping notes. One is that we will be recording this session today. So if you weren't able to join us live, or if you need to leave early, we will be sharing this recording with anyone who is registered after the fact. And I also want to really encourage everybody today to use the chat function to share your questions at any time throughout the call. We're planning about 30 minutes of presenting some exciting news and plans, and hopefully reserving about 30 minutes towards the end for questions with the group that we have here today. So on that note, I will say one other thing, which is we've billed this Voices from the Field as a special edition of sorts, and that is for many reasons, but one reason is because all of those who are participating today are actually here together in Madagascar for the first time ever. So I'm really honored to be presenting everyone to you. With that in mind, it is a cold, rainy evening here in Ranamafana. So we are hoping for the best as far as the connection goes. But if we do happen to drop at any point, my colleague Celine, who is on the West Coast, is standing by to keep the line connected while we reconfigure ourselves on this end. So please bear with us as we manage this this kind of odd setup of being all together in person for the first time for this presentation, which we never anticipated would be a little more difficult than doing it remotely. So that's been a fun challenge. And we are here in the office, so we will all be masking unless we're speaking. And if you have any trouble, feel free to flag if we are starting to get sort of fuzzy in connection, and we will do our best to troubleshoot in real time. So thank you again for being here, and I'm going to hand it off to Tara Lloyd to kick us off.
All right. Good evening, everybody, or morning or afternoon. This is such fun to be here, like Amy said, all together. It is my total honor to be here with our executive leadership team, and I have asked each of them to prepare a piece of this presentation to share with you. But before we do that, I am going to announce two really big pieces of news. And I don't know which one is the biggest piece of news, so I'm going to start by saying that Pivot is expanding. We are nearly 9 years old, and we have been invited by the government to move from district to regional operations. And Laura is going to tell you all about what that means. But the headlines are going from a catchment population of 200,000 to 1 million, and going from district level, which is one of 114 geographical units, to regional level, one of 23. So this gives us a totally different seat at the table in terms of national presence, and is a big, big deal. So with your support and enthusiasm and many months of thinking and going on expeditions and planning with the government, everything that you're about to hear, the board voted yes last Thursday night, just a week ago. And we are here tonight to tell you first how exciting this is. The other thing that they voted on at my recommendation as a board member is for Laura Cordier to serve as our executive director and for her to lead this expansion. So after 9 years, I am going to be stepping down, and I feel like this is absolutely the right moment for us to have a trilingual, culturally competent, Ministry of Health versed, technically skilled leader who has been in the field since the very beginning. Laura has built a life here. Her family is here. She has such an amazing personal story that we'll hear a little bit more about tonight. And it's been my conviction, as you all know, for the last 2.5 years since we moved headquarters to Ranamafana, that eventually my position would be part of that transition. So I will stay on as a board member, and I will also stay on for the months to come through Laura's transition. And it really is my honor and pleasure to introduce her to you, but many of you already know her, and you'll see from the presentation tonight what capable hands Laura and the executive leadership team will have pivot in for the years to come. So I'm going to hand it to Laura. We're going to start to screen share so that she can lead. Just a second, Amy's helping me with a little technical stuff. Don't do this.
No, go right ahead. Share screen.
Share screen.
All right. gonna assume it's that one.
Okay, so here comes our first troubleshooting.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Okay, maybe I'll share the screen.
Okay.
Let's try that.
All right, we've got some lovely slides for you. We're basically going to walk you through where we're headed in terms of the expansion. Then I'm going to hop back into explaining a little bit more about our executive leadership team. And then they each have a slide to share with you about what they're thinking of from their desks. All right, Amy, now that we've done that, do you want my computer to pass?
Okay.
Okay, and then, all right, so here we go. Laura is going to kick us off.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for handing me over the baton, Tara. This is an absolute honor for me. So I want to share a few slides about our expansion. As Tara explained, the board has voted on this key strategic moment for Pivot. We are ready to expand. Go to the next slide. So I'm going to talk about where we're headed. So Pivot first started working in 2014 in Vatovavy District. As Tara explained, it's one of 114 districts in Madagascar. Expansion has been something that we've been thinking about for a while. We actually had our first request from the Ministry of Health to expand in January 2017. And it didn't feel like it was the right time. We were not ready, whether it be about our model, our approach, organizationally. We wanted to mature and understand what really we could bring forward and what we could replicate and scale. So in January 2020, there was a real intention internally set towards replication as we set out our strategic plan, and that is currently going through the end of this year from 2017 to 2022. And in 2021, our region that we were in, which was previously Vatovavy Region, was divided in two, and we are now part of a new region called Vatovavy that is composed of 3 districts, and we are one of 3 districts right now. And it was interesting for us to start thinking about what would a regional expansion look like. We would become one of 23 regions in Madagascar, have a presence that made and had much more greater national relevance. And we were officially invited to think about expansion in December of 2021. So from that moment, a series of key steps and moments kind of happened. One cannot forget that early this year, we were hit by a massive cyclone, Batsirai, and the region of Vatovavy was the hardest hit region. Slowly after that, we actually engaged in an expedition to explore the rest of Vatovavy region, which we'll show a few pictures. And we went with the regional health director. And this culminated with, feedback to the staff throughout a general assembly. And we've been working hand in hand with all of the different departments to think about our strategy. And the culmination point has really been a workshop with the Ministry of Health and Pivot to talk about replication, to talk about expansion. How are we going to build this together? And it is our greatest pleasure to share that just this last week, on the 28th of July, the board voted in favor of regional expansion. So I want to talk about the opportunity of expanding regionally. First of all, it's tripling our geopolitical intervention. So we're going to move from 1 to 3 districts. 1 district out of 114 to 1 region out of 23. We're going to quintuple our catchment population, and that is huge. We're going from 200,000 to serving 1 million people. And we are tripling also our geographic coverage in terms of square kilometers. And Mananjary District is particularly large. So you can see in the slide, I won't go line by line or row by row, but the kind of break of, the number of communes, the number of sub-communes, which are called Fukuntanis in Madagascar, how many health facilities, but at a total, we're talking about supporting 89 health centers and 3 hospitals, including a regional hospital that is currently under construction. So Vatovavy Region, we've got a lot of opportunities and challenges ahead of us. First and foremost, it is one of the regions with the highest regional maternal mortality rates. So we've got a lot to undertake in terms of seeing impact at a population health level. And a lot will have to be we'll have to put a lot of thinking into how does our model reach and address this specific issue. As mentioned, it was one of the hardest hit regions during this last year's cyclone season, but there's a real opportunity with Vatovavy, apart from, this context of health data, the cyclone situation, but also the forest to the sea. As many of you know, we have a close connection to the Center Valbio, who is our founding partner. And the Vatovavy region really does that extension of going through different ecological and geographical opportunities of us to think about planetary health. And so we are excited about the opportunity of Vatovavy in terms of our founding story and our identity. And then there's a genuine also opportunity with Vatovavy around political will and partnerships. It's a new region. They're starting from scratch. They need all of the support that they can have. And we're really lucky to have a regional director who is very hands-on. And he was himself just recently a head of a health facility in Nosy, Varika, in an extremely remote area. And so he is full of energy and extremely ready to bring forth this collaboration of where where we can all move together and have this collaboration evolve. So I'm going to share a few slides of our regional expedition. So early this year in April, a team of 7, including our 2 board members, our executive director came and we went to Nosy, Varika and Mananjary. So I want to share a few pictures of the team. It was a team of 7 plus our incredible motorcycle drivers that kept us safe throughout. And then the regional director, whom you can see in the top right picture with a orange cap. That expedition was so important for us. It allowed us to understand what's just the general, the layout of the health system, the general capacity and of specific services and health facilities. We were able also to assess the geographical barriers. Some of the terrain is extremely similar to Mananjary District, as you can see in the top left picture, but then there's also the canal of Pangalan, which is a littoral, I've lost the word in English, but a more of a seaside and canal network, which is, communities that can only be accessible by river and that are extremely remote. So we're able to understand what would that mean logistically and operationally for us in terms of a health system strengthening approach. We were also able to meet some of the existing partners in those regions and have some discussions with the heads of the health centers as we visited a total of 12 health facilities and 2 hospitals. So I'll go to the next slide. You can see, a map of Nosy Varika district. So it's a district that goes from the sea inwards. There's a real variety of challenges. Accessibility is going to be the biggest challenge for us. 11 health facilities are only accessible by foot, but we are up for that challenge. And that is what has made Nosy Varika very left out of any support of technical partners because of its difficulty in access. But the DRS, so the regional health director, really understood that we were not scared by that challenge of accessibility, and that on the contrary, we believe that those health facilities that are the most remote, those populations that are the most remote, that need to walk 5 days to reach a hospital, are the people and the facilities that we are the best positioned to serve. I'll go to the next slide, the slide of around Mananjary District. They were really the most hit by the cyclone. So you can see pictures of the health facilities that don't have roofs, that have makeshift roofs. And so there's a lot of rebuilding to do. Now, thankfully, a lot of organizations have focused on that rebuilding, but in terms of strengthening the health system in the long term, a lot remains to be done. So earlier this month, we were extremely happy and honored to have a workshop with the Ministry of Health that included key directors of the ministry, the Secretary General, and we talked about the future of Pivot. So we were able to present our mission, our approach, our progress to date. So there was a whole section on our key results and around access to care, equity in access to care, quality of care with a focus on system readiness. And we were able to present our unique impact data on population health from 2014 to our latest 2021 results. This was also an opportunity to talk about key themes and discussion points that were important for the development and the construction of what comes next. So we were able to talk about partnerships, access to care and the specificity of geographic barriers, health financing, and Luke will talk a bit more about why this was such an important conversation, and also research. So this was really a key step for us to be able to talk about our shared vision for expansion and what the Ministry of Health and Pivot are going to build together around expansion. So it's a big yes from Pivot in terms of this next step. So in terms of timing, it's been a decade of us building a model district, and this is the opportunity to apply our lessons learned. In terms of the political will, we feel like it's the right time. The Ministry of Health is extremely interested in the prospects of this expansion, of being able to get such funding at a regional level. This will be the first region to get such specific targeted funding of this amount. And we'll have an opportunity to be extremely relevant to the Ministry of Health in terms of universal health coverage and other specific programs. For geographical presence, this regional presence will provide more of a relevant platform for us, both for the Ministry of Health, but also in our collaboration with other financial and technical partners. And then finally, we will be able to engage more actively with national partners to maximize our impact and reach our targeted outcomes at a regional level.
All right, thanks, Laura. So I'm just going to give you a couple of key names and faces. Some of you know these folks from having visited us, and for some people it will be new. So first, the DRS, as Laura said, the Regional Medical Inspector, Dr. Esperant, his name actually means Dr. Hope, was very, very positive about everything that Laura just described. And I think particularly impressed by the women of Pivot for how many days on motorcycle we endured without complaint. Laura. So Laura started with us in 2014, as I said. She's been national director for the last 3 years, and she has assumed the executive directorship as of Monday. Luke also started with us in 2014. Luke and I were reminiscing about his hiring, my hiring him back then, and how we were interviewing each other on the floor, I think, of this office before it existed. He serves now as our associate medical director, and some of you had a chance to meet Luke when he was in New York and Boston in May. Eliane, also with us since 2014. Eliane is leading our operations department with a special focus on human resources, which she led up until the time that she became a director just recently. Natasha is our co-director of operations, just began her medical leave, so she's not here with us this evening, but she and Eliane together make an amazing pair. Benedict, our first local national director of monitoring, evaluation, research, and learning. And some of you have been following Benedict's career as she works on her master's degree with a particular focus on MERL. And Karen, our managing director of Pivot Science. So Karen actually began as a mentor to Laura and Benedict with us in 2014. She came from Partners in Health Rwanda, and then she came back to us after finishing her PhD and has been serving with Pivot Science ever since. And then we have a cadre of deputy directors. So together, the team I just named and these 5 folks make up our senior management team. And as you know, part of that transition from Boston to Ranamafana as headquarters has really been to put a lot of emphasis on the leadership and authority within the 10 people that I've just named. So there we have Lanto, Umbula, Leia, Luva, and Aina. And then Benjamin, who is our founding board member, serves as our senior advisor. We wouldn't exist without Benjamin. He also leads Center Val Bio and has been part of Pivot from the very beginning. We lean on Benjamin for absolutely every move we make, and wouldn't be making this move to expansion without his enthusiasm and blessing. And then Professor Luke Samuelson is one of our newest board members. He's been with us for about a year, and he actually chairs the Global Fund Country Coordinating Mechanism. He's a professor and a researcher and a physician in the country. And for me, this is a real step forward in terms of the sort of national level folks that are interested in joining the Pivot board and helping to move us forward in ways that I'm really excited about. And Luke was also with Benjamin and Luke, both Lukes, in New York in May. All right, so it is time for the how we will get there slides. We are going to try to pass the computer from person to person and hope that will work. So each person has a chance to kind of talk from their desk about the most strategic things they're thinking about.
Perfect. So in terms of next steps, the next year is really again about conceptualizing, building with the Ministry of Health. We had the key moment of the board vote authorizing us to move towards regional expansion. And the next step is going to be our new strategic plan, which will be extending from 2023 to 2027. So it'll set the tone of the next 5 years, and it will allow us to develop an operational plan, which will be the basis for our partnership, new partnership convention with the Ministry of Health, which will ideally be renewed by March 2023 before we engage in any field work, even though it would be initial steps or exploratory or baseline data collection. It feels important to reach that milestone. As of April 2023, the focus will be on data and understanding in depth the needs, whether it be at a population level, whether it be at a local authority level, whether it be at the health facility level, or even the district level. So we will be doing household surveys, facility assessments, quality data collection to better understand how to adapt the work that we're doing towards the needs of these two new districts. And in July 2023, we will launch and participate in the regional cycle for planning in order to adapt the fiscal year of 2024. We expect activities to start in fiscal year 2024. So we've got 12 months of understanding and building together with the Ministry of Health. So a key a new point is that we're engaging in a new funding cycle, and this cycle will allow us to align with the national strategy. Their next strategic cycle will be through 2024 and then through 2028. And so we will able through our project to be relevant to those key steps for the Ministry of Health in terms of them setting the strategic vision for the Ministry of Health. The first cycle from 2014 to 2017 was around $10 million. The current cycle we're in, though we're in the end, has been 5 years and approximately, or we are estimating that it will reach 27 million. This expansion for Pivot has been about saying to the Ministry of Health, we are now committing to $35 million over the next 5 years with a minimum engagement of $7 million per year. And this is a new step for Pivot because we never used to present ourselves within such a funding cycle with so much visibility. It used to be from year to year. So as we are committing to this $35 million, we're also estimating that it could vary from 7 to 10 million, depending on our ability to fundraise, and that key specific projects or targeted funding opportunities could allow us to see even beyond and bigger, but that obviously relies on aligning extremely closely with the Ministry of Health to make sure that those opportunities are relevant to them. But I just want to highlight that for Pivot, this shift in concept of a financial cycle is a really new a new moment for us, and it is key in terms of our partnerships, but it is also extremely interesting and relevant for us programmatically and also from a monitoring, evaluation, and research standpoint. I will hand over to Luke.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. So the topic that I will address today will focus on the main discussion points and the proposal addressed between the ministry and the Pivot during the workshop for the expansion at the regional level. So one of those topics was the health financing, which is one of the government's priorities at the moment. Pivot started supporting the financial coverage of the population in Vanatia in 2014. It's been over 8 years of implementation. With the ministry, we have reviewed our approach to this expansion to align with the ministry goals. So for the perspective of the health financing, the directive of the ministry is to move toward financial prepayment and the pooling towards financial participation of the population. So during this workshop, it was clear that Pivot can only go in this direction to promote sustainability, but also to align with the objectives of the ministry, and that together with the same objectives, we will double the effort to reach it. To do this, we are going to establish together the methodology to be used to evaluate and monitor health expenditure at the regional level and collaborate on the strengthening of governance to guarantee a good implementation of the polling project. The second topic was the community health strengthening. So Pivot collaborated with the Ministry of Health on updating the community health implementation guide with the aim of harmonizing the various interventions at the community level. With the new activity package guide and update implementation guide, Pivot will commit to aligning our current intervention and approach with the ministry's strategy with a view to extending it to the regional level, but also adapting the activities in place to the district level. Strengthening community health remains of Pivot's priorities, and we are ready to move forward with the ministry to bring this program to a level that recognizes and supports community health workers in all possible forms. So now I will show you the main top programmatic priorities informed by regional health outcomes. First, maternal health remains a priority for the ministry in view of the childbirth rate and the high mortality rate at the national level, which is more significant in the region where we are going to extend. In the interest of deepening our approach with regards to strengthening maternal health. Reproductive health is also part of the government's priorities in order to increase the rate of use of maternal and reproductive health services. Additionally, the vaccination rate has decreased significantly at the national level because of the stock outs at the national level. The ministry are very interested to collaborate more specifically on these issues. For the other programs, we will see more in detail with the regional level to further identify the specific priorities based on the nuances of health of the population in general in the region where we will expand. So another key topic discussed was the evolution of the nature of our partnership as we expand. So the strengthening of this partnership at all levels is essential to balance the support that we will be provided on the strategic priorities of the ministry at the central level and unique ability to support operationally at the regional and the district level. I think that's all of the topics that I can share during this workshop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Luc. My name is Eliane, as presented by Tara. So I'll get my presentation in French, and sorry for everyone who speaks English. Premièrement, bonjour tout le monde d'abord. Premièrement, je vais présenter 5 grands points de préparation en termes d'opérationnalité. Comme premier point, dans le cadre de cette expansion, nous allons devoir préparer les côtés administratifs importants pour nos projets. Ça inclut notre convention de partenariat avec le ministère de la Santé qui marquera l'approbation du projet. Dans ça aussi, il y aura l'identification en termes des RH pour couvrir la norme ministérielle et ça en collaboration toujours avec le ministère de la Santé. Dans le cadre de cette expansion aussi, nous allons devoir nous s'implanter au niveau de la capitale, ça pour faciliter l'avancement et la validation de la plupart de notre projet. Nous allons aussi restructurer en interne notre plan de ressources humaines, ça pour nous préparer sur cette expansion. Nous allons identifier avec le ministère les activités prioritaires afin de déployer notre staff. En termes d'infrastructure, nous allons identifier les besoins en réhabilitation parce que après le passage cyclonique, nous avons constaté que les besoins en réhabilitation sont vraiment extrêmes dans les 2 nouveaux districts. En termes de renforcement des systèmes financiers, pour terminer mes points, nous allons quand même renforcer notre système financier en utilisant un nouveau logiciel afin de s'ouvrir avec les sources de financement multilatérales. Merci beaucoup et je passe la parole à Bénédicte.
Hello everyone, I'm Benedict. So for me, I'll present some projects that we conduct with the ministry. For people, strengthening the health information system is a key component as a pillar of the health system. So we are a partner of the ministry in digital health from the national, regional and the district level. It's an evidence that the promotion of mobile technology is a prudent solution for the availability, quality and use of data from the regional health information system, as well the quality of care at the level of health structure. So we support some projects with the ministry, and first of all, the mobile technology for ComCare. It's a deployment of a mobile application for use by health workers at community and health center levels to strengthen the quality of care, reporting, and data quality. So Pivot financed the training, hardware, and continue to support in the use of application by the community health worker. And digitizing monthly activity reports. It's a digitization of health center activity reports in order to optimize the timeliness and quality of data for improved decision making. After electronic medical records, we are in exploration phase on this project. It's exploration with the Ministry of Public Health for digitization of patient files at the hospital level, and also digitization of healthcare coverage system. It's facilitating successful implementation and the management of health financing project. It's going to allow us to check costs at the patient level in real time and to help us with financial transparency. And finally, health facility service. It's assessing the operational capacity of health facilities, enabling evaluation of service delivery with a focus on key elements of a health system, like quality of care, infrastructure, supply chain, equipment, and governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedict. With all that data that's coming in, there is so much opportunity for science. And expansion means there's an opportunity for continued strengthening of the collaboration with Pivot's implementation team and the Ministry of Health in integrating research to help answer questions that are important to Madagascar and the global community around universal health coverage and health system strengthening. We see this expansion as an opportunity to deepen our understanding of what works for care delivery at the last mile, to answer questions around impact evaluation, what impact does our work have on population health, mortality, and coverage, and to do operations research to really deeply understand our programs, the fidelity with which they're implemented, and the impact that they're having on patient outcomes. This is an opportunity to continue to pursue innovation that Pivot Science has been doing since the beginning. When I think about innovative methods, innovative use of the data that's coming in that the health system is collecting to help understand what's going on, and to build a platform that really integrates research and science with implementation, something that so many organizations and our peers are also interested in. For us, one of the first opportunities that comes with expansion is the launch of baseline data collection in our 2 new districts. This means that we will do a household survey and collect information on population health and well-being to create a baseline where we'll be able to measure the impact of our work over time, but also to help inform the programs that we're creating to understand intervention coverage and identify the gaps in the current system. We also have round 5 of our cohort data collection in Vatovavy District coming up at the same time. Both of these will be launched early in the second quarter of 2023 and will provide evidence around the impact of Pivot. I am going to turn it back to Tara.
All right, thanks everybody. I feel so proud of our team. It's really such a pleasure to work with them. Thank you guys all. You know, it's nighttime here and English is a third language and time zones and translation. And I just feel so grateful for you all presenting this evening, what really will be their work to take us to this next level. So I just have one slide here in terms of our partnership, the partnership with everybody who's on the line today and everyone who is supporting this opportunity for Pivot. We have 450 active individual donors, and I'd like to say thank you to every single one of you for this last decade of support. We also have 14 active foundation partnerships, and without you, we could never have built this. I named them there just so that you all can see the community that you share. And one of the things that's so nice about this Voices from the Field platform is that you can join together and hear from one another the questions that are on everyone's minds. In terms of strategies for growth, we are preparing for multilateral funding opportunities. That's not something that I hope happens overnight, because as you all know, it's complicated, and restricted money can sometimes make innovation harder, but I know that we can't get to a $10 million budget without it. So we do have to prepare our systems in terms of the NetSuite move that Eliane talked about, and procurement cycles and things that would get us ready to be competitive for those kinds of grants. And that's something that we'll be thinking about over the years to come. I said $10 million. I know that Laura has said a minimum of 7 with this $35 million funding cycle. So that would be sort of staying within the bounds of what we've been able to raise so far. But I think if we're going to go beyond and be real key national strategic partners, we will need to be competitive to raise some of the money that comes into Madagascar, and that'll take some preparation of our systems. And then engaging with national partners. So Laura mentioned organizations like UNICEF that are really interested in promoting innovative approaches to community health, really getting to international best practices, thinking of funding something like 5 or 6 regions to do the kind of community health that we would like to see happening. And so when we're at regional level, we're all of a sudden attracting partners that wouldn't have wanted to partner with us just at the district level. So we're setting ourselves up for sort of a different stage of engagement. And then of course, your introductions to other people who might be interested in funding Pivot, and your continued support as our partners as we lean into this quintupling of our catchment population. I'm still sort of laying awake at night thinking 1 million people. It's really quite extraordinary, and 1 million opportunities to change lives. So thank you for being with us in the last decade and for the decade to come. We are going to transition now to questions. And as Amy said, we're used to our little Zoom boxes. I know we're all used to our little Zoom boxes after COVID, so we're not quite sure how to see your questions. And whether or not we'll be able to promote you to ask them in person, which we normally love to do, but we might not pull off with the rainy night internet in Ranamafan. We're going to swap computers so we can at least see what's coming in from the chat.
Yes, so I just want to ask quickly, because we had a quick last minute technical change of sharing screen, and we haven't been able to see whether there's any activity in the chat. I'm not sure if you all have been able to participate in the chat, or if we just don't have any questions yet. So if you do have a question, now we have about 15 minutes left, and we would love to invite you to just go ahead and raise your hand if you do have a question. Or Celine, perhaps you can let me know if the chat function is working. And I will just pass it back to you, Tara, for a moment while I figure that out.
Okay.
Over on this end.
Should we stop sharing screen?
It's
We
already.
have.
Sorry,
Okay.
stop.
All right. We've got Celine testing the chat function. I'll just show us everyone in the room again. Here we are. We were wishing that we could have seen you from the rainforest earlier today. It was very lovely, but it's nighttime, so nothing to see outside right now. We did have a really remarkable experience though. Earlier in the week, I was down at the waterfall that's right beside our office, having a weekly one-on-one meeting with a colleague, and lemurs came down from the trees and joined us for our meeting, which we took as auspicious and exciting.
It's showing up here.
Oh, good.
There we go.
Here comes the chat. Okay, so yes, it looks like Celine is able to submit questions. I'll just assume that we gave you so much information, you're digesting it. Let's see if. Yikes, yeah, we're getting questions about whether you all can hear us. Hopefully we have been not talking into the void. I don't know how to test that. Okay, all right. Yeah, we'll assume Celine would have let us know. All right. So I will maybe just give a little bit more information while we're waiting to see if people have questions. One of the things I wanted to share is that we're talking about this as replication to 2 new districts and expansion to regional level. But one of the things that we'll be thinking about is whether we have a model district that we retain sort of indefinitely, and then replication districts that look different than that model, where we are using the terminology government as doer. Kevin and Mulago, that's straight from you guys, but really the government taking a forward seat here and Pivot being a step behind and supporting from behind, which is the intention. But I think there'll also be the temptation to become a regional model. And so that'll be a question that we'll be like answering in real time in terms of whether eventually all 3 districts look fairly similar and the regional model for UHC is what we're putting forward. But that's something that we intend to figure out with the government. And you may also be thinking about that timeline. You know, we have such a bias for action at Pivot that we want to just dive right in. But I think that what Laura has laid out to take the coming year to really design this with the government at the table from the very beginning, taking the lessons learned from this last decade and the model district in Ifanadine is a huge opportunity. And it's an interesting one from a funding perspective, because we need people to walk together with us through that experience. You know, we don't have answers yet to everything, because if we did, we would be getting in front of exactly what we said we would like to do with the government. And we couldn't start planning until we had a yes from the board, because we didn't want to make commitments that we couldn't honor. So I'd like to give a real thank you to everybody who's along for this journey with us. Of course, we'll continue to serve the Ifanadine population. And so we'll have plenty of direct need for that, but we'll also just need support in order to be able to pull off the timeline that Laura described. And while we won't have significant programmatic work until FY24, we will go ahead and address the low-hanging fruit. When we're doing baseline data collection and health facility surveys, we are not going to let health centers stand without a roof, or communities be disconnected from the health system for want of a dugout canoe that could easily resolve that problem in real time. So while Luke and Laura and I and others were on this expedition, we had the opportunity to ask each head of health center what their greatest needs were. And, you know, many of them were infrastructure and supply chain and staffing and the ones you would expect. And some of them were as simple as a dugout canoe. And so I think what we'll do is start to think about how we would like to address some of those really low-hanging fruit issues without getting ahead of expectations, and, you know, kind of a sense of what Pivot will look like in these additional places. But it was really something to be with the DRS on the expedition. And I hope you all are following that acronym, the regional head of health, just because he was hearing in real time what we were hearing in terms of how much need there is and how people are working so tirelessly to serve the community, you know, not knowing for sure whether support will come. So I know Laura and the team are really looking forward to sharing this news, and we'll do so like publicly and to the government next week. No questions. I don't know what no questions means. Because the presentation was so clear. Oh, I could invite my mom to ask a question. I don't know, that seems kind of funny. All right. Oh, it's so nice to see who's on the line. Wow, all kinds of folks that have supported us and are in it for the long haul. We're really grateful to see you guys. You know, I'm assuming that if you had questions, you'd ask them. I don't think I'll call.
Oh, we have a question. Yay. All right.
I sometimes put people on the spot, but tonight I'm not feeling it.
Oh, wonderful. We're so happy to take your questions with the time that we have left. So I'm just going to go ahead in the order that I saw them appear. Oh, we're down to one. Okay. Michelle, if you wouldn't mind, we'd love to invite you to come on speaker. It seems like our best chance to hear from you. So I am, or maybe you were just testing it. Now I see that you have, let's just go ahead and try it. And if this was a mistake.
Okay. Can you hear me?
You are.
Hi, first off, I want to say the chat is disabled. So I don't know if other people had questions, but it's been disabled on my end during the presentation.
Well, that explains that. Thank you.
Yeah, but I just first wanted to just say, you know, congrats to your team for this, you know, huge achievement of being able to expand regionally, and I appreciated seeing the process and the steps that were taken before making that decision to go to your board and then the board approving. I think one of my questions is around, I guess, challenges. You're going into a area of strategic planning for the next 5 years. So I'm just wondering what, in the ethos of Pivot, what type of things are the challenges that are in mind in terms of the structure you currently have, and then what expansion would mean to, I guess, your beginnings and what your core is.
Perfect. That's an excellent question. So we are deep in an exercise of documenting everything that we've done, pulling together all of the in-depth statistical analysis that we've been undertaking over the last 8 years, a big lessons learned exercise of what we're calling our UHC documentation, which is really helping us understand what have we done? What from just a formative evaluation standpoint, what have been the challenges and what have been the outcomes? And what are the remaining challenges, especially from an expansion lens? And so we want to be able to address those immediately in Ifanadine where they're easily and manageable, and then really break them down with the Ministry of Health to understand, well, from the model that we've tested and from what we have tried to implement and achieve, what is relevant, what needs to be changed, what has to adapt. So I think the way forward for us is, as always, to be just thinking about data points. I mean, obviously there's the baseline data collection. There are also some regional level data points that are available from the national DHS. And so those will be just the stepping stone. And then also understanding what are the gaps in information that we want to gather, which will help us in the next 6 months to a year to kind of to address what are the priorities. We know that this is not a district Ifanadine ×3. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into our new strategy. What does an updated model look like for scale? And it's going to be about being savvy in terms of opportunities. There's the way that we presented it to the Ministry of Health, and then they also kind of shared it back to us as they understood it, is Pivot is in a unique opportunity to support operationally in 3 districts at a regional level in enabling the operational side of the health system, being closest to the patient, but at the same time being relevant to the Ministry of Health in their strategic priorities. And so there's that really soft spot that we're very uniquely positioned to be supporting. And so as we figure out what that looks like, it's going to be a unique challenge to understand what are the needs and priorities on the ground, and making sure that we have an approach that can still be bottom up and relevant from a grassroots approach, but then yet also relevant from the ministry and their top-down approach of what are some national strategies that they want to engage in. So we've got a lot to figure out, a lot to build together, but we are just at the right moment and in our right collaboration with the Ministry of Health for this to become a possibility.
Thank you. I don't know if someone else raised their hand. I have a follow-up, but I can wait because I know we're short on time.
I don't think anyone else has a hand up. That would actually be perfect. Michelle, let's let you ask your follow-up and then we'll close out.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand. So it seems like you're moving your lens to the district level as opposed to moving into 2 new districts, like, or that's the framing that it is of going at the district level, bottom up, as opposed to building what you have in Ifanadine in 2 other districts.
So I think if I understand your question, so as we're going to be expanding 2 new districts, and we'll have a regional presence, which will be comprised of 3 districts. And we're not assuming, like you said, that this is just a solid replication. And so we will understand based on the needs, based on our strengths and what we can bring, based on the national level priorities and the opportunities that arise, build the right project in order to be able to best serve 1 million people. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect.
And I think, Michelle, just to add that government is doer language, what we're thinking here really is that it's not a copy and paste, as Laura said, of Vatovavy District in these two other places, but really taking what the government wants to put forward and thinks can scale nationally and being the partner behind them that makes that exploration possible. So back when we were first thinking about expansion years ago, and as Laura said, asked in 2017 to expand anywhere, we didn't know we'd have this regional opportunity. We thought we would choose another 1 or 2 districts for replication and then hope that the compilation of data from those places could serve to scale at national level. And what's happened now is that this regional step is really going to accelerate that, I think, but it will look different in the new places than it has looked here for the last decade. So with that, we've hit our hour, so I'm going to close out and say thanks so much to everybody for joining. It was really fun to see 70 people register for this and lean in with us while we lean into thinking what Pivot looks like serving all of Vatovavy Region. And it's been my pleasure to serve as Executive Director for these last years and be with Pivot from the very beginning. And it really is my honor to see our executive leadership team here on the ground in Ranamafana carry us forward. So please visit, come meet them in person. I'm sure they'll have opportunities to meet you as well all around the world. And I will stay on as our Executive Director Emeritus through this transition and remain a board member and look forward to staying in relationship with you as well. I see Amy's giving me a little nod to some kind of technical something she'd like to say.
Yes, just as a final point for tonight, to reiterate, thank you so much for being here. I just want to make sure everyone knows we intended to have the chat open and we would love to hear your questions still. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. You'll be hearing from me by the end of the week with a recording of this call, and we would love to take your questions by email and follow up with further discussions. We're really excited to hear your reactions to these really momentous shifts for Pivot. And again, thank you for being here. We would love to have you here with us in Madagascar someday, as I see, as Tara said, and many of you who are on the line were just here recently. So thank you again, and we look forward to connecting with you again soon. And with that, we'll all say Galuma.
Hello,
Thank you.